Hi, and welcome to the first time I'm turning this camera on in 2024. I know the last episode is really about the new year and the changing of the year and the goals and such, but this is the first time I'm looking at the camera this year. So I want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you had a happy new year. And let's talk about what happened this week. Gonna try to keep it shorter this time and see how it goes. So let's go. So as mentioned, this is the first time I'm putting on the camera in 2024, and I did have a pretty light calendar going into January. It's been hard because as I had the surgery, I really didn't have anything on the calendar for a little while there because I was unavailable to play, and now I'm trying to kind of play catch up and get that going again. And the good news is it's starting to happen. I'm certainly getting a lot more inquiries per day than I used to, and it's just a lot of shots on goal, I think is the way you have to view this sort of thing. So I am gonna probably talk next week about the way I'm approaching getting organized with this kind of challenge in front of me. In addition to that, I did have one gig this week. I was playing at First Friday in Los Altos, so on the street in front of the Rustic House Oyster Bar. That was it's kind of a fun little gig. It's always pretty low pressure, and I did that for 3 hours. First time kind of being out in the elements with the hand, so tricky, but I was able to feel pretty good by the end of the gig. I was tired at the end of the night. And I did have one memorable anecdote that I'll get to for the tip. The other things kind of going on, been continuing to get my hand strength back, learning a new song actually for a friend of mine who commissioned me to do it this week, so looking forward to that. Probably gonna do a video version of that, in addition to the plan is to play it live on Discord for their Dungeons & Dragons group. So something different, kind of a cool little project that has been thrown at me. And I've also been adjusting the way I hold the pick to alleviate hand pain in this is my non-surgery fixed hand. Specifically, I used to hold the pick this way, and I did mention this, someone actually gave me a little pick with a rubber grip on it. And I'm trying to get used to using a grip where my hand is supporting that, so it's not putting all the force to that knuckle in. It's kind of a weird retraining, and a lot of my training, a lot of the way I approach singing and playing guitar is really using as little pressure as possible. But now I'm going through a bit of muscle memory relearn, which kind of throws everything a little off kilter. But so far, so good. And I was able to play the vast majority of my set on Friday using the new grip. No one seemed to kind of notice the difference. I was able to play pretty accurately, and I had much less pain at the end of the gig. So I'm pretty optimistic that that's gone well, which is great. It's actually kind of hard to change a habit you've had for, I guess it's been 15 years now. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. And I do want to kind of just nip on over to the tip because I have a lot to get back to actually, as big projects going on. The other thing, I guess, before I jump into the tip, is that I have this larger editing project I've been working on, which is an instructional kind of video where I talk about my process around creating a smaller configuration for my RC600. Specifically, I have a backup 600 loop station that I use, and I want to make sure that I have that ready to go for smaller venues where I can't bring my big, heavy pedal board. So trying to figure out how to get as much functionality as possible into a small space and how I think about the design of that. So it's my idea of throwing some sort of knowledge into the pool around RC600, specifically loop configuration, whatever you want to call it. Just kind of an interesting project that I'm trying to get a craft around creating that kind of material. As I mentioned in the last episode, I do want to do 4 of them this year, and this is the first one. So almost done with that. I've done all the recording. I've done most of the editing. I've got some mixing to do, and a couple other little things I'd like to throw in there. But on the whole, I think it's come together pretty well. So the tip, as I mentioned earlier, on First Friday, I had a little bit of an event at the end of the night. Specifically, we're 10 minutes from the end of the night, it's 8:50 or so, and I'm in the middle of my second to last song, which I had told the small but mighty audience in front of me that I was going to be doing, and the power goes out. That's it. No microphone, no guitar, no loop, no nothing. And I'm calling this episode Yes And because my background, as I think I've mentioned before in the series, is in part around improvisation, like theater improv, right? Not improv like you think of it as a musician necessarily, but what do you do when an unexpected situation comes your way? And that's kind of the mentality I go into. I've started to kind of look forward to these moments when they're not too catastrophic, because I have found that the opportunities to make the best impression on an audience are when things go wrong. Honest to God, most people really enjoy it when you're cruising along. They remember the time things don't go well. They remember when things go off the rails. They're excited about it because it's like, that guy is a human being, or look at that thing he did. Because that's the thing they remember. And this was a moment that was thrown at me that wasn't like a mistake I made, but rather a situation that was just like put in front of me. And I've done this one time before, so it wasn't the first time I've been in this situation, but I basically unplugged my guitar, because I wasn't doing anything plugged in, and I wandered over to where the folks were sitting who were watching me, and I just basically did the whole song from that point forward acoustically. No microphone, no nothing. And in fact, I ended up doing 2 songs that way. I did the last song that way too. And people, like, they just lit up. This idea that this person who, after having a setback and having suddenly having their show interrupted, just said, you know what, it's not about that, it's about you guys. I think that really did make an impression. And I think those are the moments, this is again the yes and thing, when something unexpected happens, when possible, and it's not always possible. If you can land the show, if you can enhance it in some way, that's a great moment. And that's going to be probably something that sticks with those people for the week for sure. As like, wow, that was a really cool thing to happen. That like performer just came out and just serenaded us after, their power cut out. So that's just that's a tip I feel pretty comfortable with. A lot of these tips, it's like, this is what I learned in the moment and how I'm going to approach it differently. This is a skill that I had going into this series that I've invariably found it's just powerful. It's a really cool trick, and honestly, it keeps me on my toes, which is great. You want to keep it fresh, keep it new, keep it fun, keep it musical, and that's pretty much it. So with that, I'm going to end this one here. Hopefully, it's definitely a lot shorter than last week, and hopefully kind of more on the shorter side in general. And I hope you folks are doing well. You had a wonderful new year, and that you have a great start to the new things this year as you get back into the flow. And next week, I'm probably going to talk a little bit about how I'm organizing this hunt for lots of gigs, which is a lot of emailing, a lot of organizing, just pounding pavement. So with that, I'm going to shut it down, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.